Wind moaned between rusting beams of the old starport ruins. Rain pelted the corrugated roof of the brothel like 1,000 whispers trying to be heard. A single neon sign buzzed above the door. Blue Lantern, all species welcome. The flickering blue light sputtered as if it too wanted to leave this place behind. In a back room dimly lit by a failing heat lamp, she wiped blood off her knuckles. Her name was Sarai, though no one here used it. Most just called her girl, or Meat. She was 17. But years meant nothing when you'd been bought and sold before your first kiss, when men and creatures had fingers like tentacles or tongues like drills. Pain taught her, silence trained her. Eyes always open, back always straight. The first time she broke a man's jaw, the madame gave her a week of freedom. The second time, she nearly killed a Lurian noble whose scaled tail still twitched days later. By then, she was given a new room, her own cot, her own lock. No one asked why she stared at the sky every night, as if the stars held secrets she could decode. Maybe they did. Or maybe beneath every scream, every stench, every scrape of metal against skin, she was waiting for something. She just didn't know what. And then came the noise. Not the moaning, not the fighting. A different sound, like bones grinding underwater. Deep, impossible, wrong. It started on the outer rim of the mining district. Then the power failed across half the sector. Gravity surged and twisted in hallways. Something was entering the atmosphere. It wasn't a ship. One night, Sarai stood outside the Blue Lantern, hair-drenched, fists clenched. She felt it, an echo in her bones, a howl in the void no one else noticed, and she wasn't afraid. The monsters came like nightmares, unshackled, fleshless, clawed. Some floated, some dragged entrails that weren't theirs. They screamed with voices stolen from children, from lovers, from priests, and they devoured not just flesh, but memory. You'd watch them kill your brother, and forget you had one. The military called them nullborn, no DNA, no source, just hunger wrapped in rage. Sarai watched them tear through her district, and she ran, not away, but toward them. She grabbed a pipe and the pipe bent in her hands. She didn't notice, not right away. She fought, she dodged, she screamed. One of the nullborn lunged, a split-faced monstrosity with no eyes, just mouths inside mouths. She impaled it through the jaw. It howled, not in pain, but in surprise. It had never felt pain before. She blinked. Time twisted. The air cracked like shattered glass. And then she saw it. Not just the creature, but herself. Her eyes glowed gold. Her arms were veined with burning lines. Something ancient, something powerful, had awakened. Later they would say Sarai was chosen. But she knew better. She wasn't chosen. She was made. In the ashes of her childhood, in the hands of men who broke her. In the nights she refused to scream, she was forged. The resistance found her 2 days later. They called themselves the Warden's Ring, a faction of humans and hybrids fighting from orbiting stations. They'd lost 100 fighters that week, but when they saw what she'd done to a nullborn horde, bare hands, no weapon, they called her a myth, a living relic. They took her in, cleaned her up, offered her food she didn't have to earn, water she didn't have to fight for. She barely spoke, just trained, fought, repeated, like muscle memory burned into soul. She didn't dream, she didn't sleep much either, but she listened, and she learned. The nullborn weren't invading, they were called, by someone, or something. Buried in the center of the dying world, beneath what used to be New Cairo, a city glassed in the fusion wars, there was a signal pulsing. Not in sound, but thought. They called it the whisper. No one could get close. Minds melted, flesh rotted, drones disappeared. But Sarai, she volunteered. No armor, no escorts, just her and the silence. The descent took hours. First came shadows that didn't match her shape. Then voices, her mother's scream, her father's drunken chant, the echo of men she had buried with broken bones and stolen blades. She kept walking. When the hallucinations failed, the creatures came. Not Nullborn, but things worse, things that remembered. A hunter with no face and 8 blades, a weeping girl made of glass who mimicked every movement, a beast that roared not with sound, but with your own memories of fear. She killed them all. Inside the heart of the ruins, she found the source. A stone, not a machine, not a signal tower. A living monolith etched with symbols she understood without reading. It spoke, not in words, in knowing. It told her of the first collapse, of a race of humans seeded across galaxies, warriors bred from pain and loss. Of Earth not as a planet but as a forge. She was one of them, a last spark. And she had awakened not just her body, but the planet itself. Because Earth was alive, and it had been waiting. For her. When she emerged, she wasn't Sarai anymore. She wore armor made of magnetic plasma, shaped from raw elements she summoned without touching. Her voice could break Nullborn's screams. Her fists broke gravity. She didn't save one town, she wiped an entire fleet of abominations in under 9 minutes. Word spread. She wasn't just a girl. She was the weapon. The Warden's ring followed her now, and she led not from behind a screen but at the front of every charge. Nullborn fell like shattered bone statues. But they kept coming. Worse, they evolved. Now they spoke, and one of them wore a face she knew, her own. It called itself Echo. "You are not the savior," it hissed. "You are the seed of the end." She didn't reply. She tore off its jaw, but it laughed. "You cannot kill what lives in you." And it was right. Inside her, the darkness whispered still. The memories, the rage, the power. It wasn't just her weapon, it was her cost. The more she used it, the more it fed. And the more she lost herself. One night, in a steel chamber above Earth's orbit, she sat alone, looking down at the blue and grey sphere. Her fingers trembled. She whispered, "Am I the hero or the monster?" And Earth answered, "Neither. You are the edge, the blade between surrender and survival." So she fought again, and again. She gathered others, fighters who had bled, creatures who had changed, even former enemies who remembered what humanity once meant. Together they became a storm. And Sarai stood at its center. Her final battle wasn't against a monster, it was against a choice. To become pure power and lose her mind, or remain herself and risk losing the war. She chose neither. She redefined the choice. She went into the final breach without armor, without weapons, just her hands, and she held the heart of the enemy, the original Nullborn core, in her palm. It begged, it twisted, it offered her worlds. She didn't speak, she crushed it. And in the silence that followed, Earth breathed again, skies cleared, children dreamed, and in the ruins of the old brothel, the blue lantern flickered once more. This time it stayed on. Sarai disappeared after that. Some say she died, others say she became part of Earth's core, sleeping until needed again. But those who remember say this: she was born in pain, forged in fire, but she never let the monsters define her. She made them fear her. And because of that, humanity survived. And will never forget the girl who saved the world. Stars blinked like watching eyes as her ship slipped into orbit around the first target. Cortharis, a planet carved from obsidian and ice, ruled by the Vrothax, sentient beasts that fed on fear, whose monarch wore a crown of living flame. They called him King Varnak. He had never been touched by a female. Not truly. He devoured all who tried. But rumors said he feared one thing: not death, not pain, but connection. Sarai walked into his court in silence, veiled in silver skin and scars she no longer tried to hide. Her eyes held no seduction, only certainty. She was no one's gift, no diplomat, no offering. She was the beginning of his end. The Vrothaks surrounded her, snarling, clawing the marble floors with blades for fingers. Varnak rose from his molten throne, his form barely humanoid. Smoke curled from his eyes. "You bring me no tribute," he growled. Sarai stepped forward, her voice velvet and venom. "I am the tribute." The room froze. Even the heat paused. Varnak tilted his head. "You dare offer yourself?" "I offer what you cannot conquer," she said. She was in his bedchamber by nightfall, not chained, not coerced. She went willingly. She smiled. He whispered of dominion. She whispered of surrender. And as he reached for her, she reached for the blade hidden in her thigh. A kiss, a gasp, a plunge, one motion, straight through his molten heart. He didn't scream, he just stared and whispered, "What are you?" She leaned close. "I'm the answer to every empire built on blood." She burned the throne. The Vrothaks' empire collapsed within hours, monarchless, panicked, consumed by internal war. She didn't watch it fall. She was already en route to the next. Xerax III, homeworld of the Mer, a race of shape-shifting monarchs, seductive, fluid, impossible to trust. Their queen-king was both male and female, both soft and hard, both voice and silence. They welcomed her as an exotic toy. She let them. Feathers became chains, chains became flowers, flowers became serpents. Sarai danced through their illusions, always one step behind surrender. And when the queen-king wept in what it thought was climax, she whispered into its ear, "Your true name is fear." Her kiss became a scream. Her touch became a void. She folded the Mer in on itself, twisting flesh through dimension until nothing remained but silence. The Mer consort court collapsed in chaos. Assassinations, succession wars, power devoured power. Nothing held. Sarai walked out bloodless, but not empty. Each conquest hollowed her more. Each seduction rewrote a scar. But she kept moving, because behind the curtain of monarchs and monsters, a deeper threat loomed, planet Thryon. The twin suns never set. The Dreglords lived in daylight, bathing in radiation, feeding on solar wind. Their leader, Thon Drackle, had ruled for 1,000 years, immortal, mutated, a being of bone and plasma. No one had ever seen his face. Until Sarai. She arrived nude, no weapons, no voice, just eyes that dared. They encased her in crystal, tried to dissect her. The glass shattered with a breath. Drakel emerged from a sunforge. 12 arms, no eyes, a body shaped from fusion burns. "You cannot kill me," he said. She walked to him, took his wrist, whispered, "No, I can make you want to die." He laughed for hours, until she stopped his heart mid-embrace, her fingers inside his chest. His laughter turned to choking. She didn't blink, didn't cry. She never stayed to see them die. She only stayed long enough to make sure it was personal. They began to notice, across the systems, whispers. The Black Star Whore. The Monarch Slayer. She who mates with kings and buries empires. But she wasn't mating, she was executing. Each act was theatre. Seduction as blade, intimacy as poison. They offered her fleets. She burned them. They offered her peace. She answered with silence. She didn't want power. She wanted one thing: eradication. Because the true enemy had revealed itself. A being beyond the null-born. The architect. A consciousness that seeded galaxies with tyrants to break civilizations from within. A living code that whispered to every conqueror. Sarai's destruction of the kings wasn't revenge. It was sabotage. She was dismantling the architect's network, piece by piece. One bed, one breath, one execution at a time. Her last mission took her to Velatar Prime, the origin world of the architect's physical body. It wasn't a palace. It was a cathedral of bone and data, suspended in dark matter. There was no throne, only a single being. He looked human. He had her father's face, and when she entered, he didn't rise. He just smiled. "I knew you'd come." She said nothing. He stood. You've killed my hands, my voices, my will made flesh in 100 kings. Still, she said nothing. You're not here to seduce me, he said. Are you? No. She drew the blade she had forged from every death. A blade etched with their names, a weapon carved from her story. He spread his arms. I will just be replaced. She stepped forward. No, I'm not here to kill you. He frowned. Then what? She leaned in. I'm here to change you. And she kissed him. Not with lips, with memory, with every pain, every child, every scream, every war. She poured it into him. The seduction wasn't physical, it was spiritual. And the architect broke. He fell to his knees, he wept, he fractured. And she shattered him from within, not with seduction, not with blades, but with truth. Galaxies shifted after that. Empires crumbled without a whisper. No one rebuilt them, because something else spread in their place. Hope. Not overnight, not perfectly, but the kind of hope that grows from ash. The kind of hope seeded by a woman who walked into fire and came out a storm. Sarai never returned. No one saw her again. But sometimes, late at night, in the ruins of fallen courts, they say they hear breathing, slow, steady, powerful, and they say, she's not done, because as long as monsters rise, so will she, the girl who made love into a weapon and turned kings into memories, the girl who saved the world, and then decided the universe needed saving too. They built statues of her, not of her body, no. No curves, no seduction, no soft marble forms. They sculpted her eyes, flames frozen in stone, fury caught mid-thought. Sculptors across 5 systems wept, carving from meteor stone and dying suns. They called her the Thorn Queen. She had vanished, but her wake churned chaos. In less than 2 Earth years, 42 monarchs were dead, 7 bloodlines extinct, 11 planetary religions rewritten in her name. She hadn't asked for any of it. She just kept moving. But now she wasn't alone. Her fire birthed fire. Whispers turned to movement. They called themselves Daughters of Ruin, former slaves, former consorts, broken queens, betrayed soldiers, even men, grieving, burned, left for dead, joined them. They didn't follow Sarai. They became her. They trained in silence, loved on their own terms, bled with purpose, no ceremony, no oaths, only one rule: monsters die, and in their name whole sectors fell, but something darker moved beneath. Not the architect, not kings, not war, memory. Sarai began to feel pulls, in dreams, in magnetic fields, in voices only she could hear, not words, not threats, questions. Where did you come from? Why you? What if you were meant for more than killing? She ignored them, until she couldn't. Deep beyond the galactic rim, where even dark matter bends in strange directions, there lies a place older than time. Harloth's womb, no stars, no rotation, no light, just a sphere. Perfect, silent. She went there alone. She didn't tell her followers, she didn't tell Earth. She entered the sphere. Inside, nothing. And then, everything. A memory. Her as a child. Laughing. A day she thought forgotten. A warm drink. A cool breeze. Then, the brothel. Her first night. Then, the scream of her first kill. Then, Varnick's flame. Then, Drakel's breath. Then, herself. Across from her. A mirror? No. A second self. Eyes like hers. Posture like hers. But older. Not in years. In time. The reflection spoke. You have mastered the sword. Sarai said nothing. You have mastered the body. Still she waited. But have you mastered what you are? Sarai stepped closer. I am what they made me. No, said the other. You are what you chose after. A flash, a battlefield, not kings, not armies. A being, skeletal, titanic, androgynous. A fusion of all the ones she had killed. A god born from consequence. It whispered across the cosmos. I am the reclaiming. Born from vengeance. Sustained by fear. moulded from her pattern. Every death had fed it. It had copied her fury, her seduction, her precision. It had learned, and it was coming. When she returned from the sphere, the galaxy felt colder. Stars blinked like dying candles. Empires didn't just fall now, they imploded, as if erased from history. The Daughters of Ruin sent word. Entire systems were disappearing, not destroyed, forgotten, erased from memory itself. The reclaiming wasn't killing, it was unmaking, and it wore her face. The Council of Remaining Worlds, scraps of regimes, rebels, pirates, scientists, gathered for one thing. They begged her to lead. She refused. "I am not your queen," she said. "You're our last god," whispered a Takal priest. "I'm no god." "But you're the only thing it fears." She paused and nodded. The battle wasn't won, it was thousands. Across ice planets, blood oceans, psychic moons, in subspace and above suns, on airless rocks and inside time fractures. Sarai led from the front. The reclaiming adapted. Faster, smarter. It sent seducers, copies of her past lovers, projections of her lost family. She didn't flinch, but each strike drained her, because the reclaiming fed on emotion, on memory. And every time she remembered why she fought, it got stronger. She knew the answer. Let go. But to let go meant to lose everything. So she did something no one expected. She shared. She broadcast her memory. Every pain, every triumph, every touch, every violation, every murder, every kiss, every betrayal, to the galaxy. She tore open her mind and gave it away. Now the reclaiming had nothing left to take, and when it came for her, it found not a weapon, but a void. No fear, no anger, only purpose. She faced it, not as seductress, not as killer, not as queen, as Sarai. And she whispered, "You are not me. You are what I was. And I have moved on." She did not kill it. She forgave it. And in doing so, broke the loop. The reclaiming shattered, not in screams, in silence, a final piece. After the war, she vanished again. This time, no statues, only stars. The galaxy did not need her sword anymore, but the legend remained. Some say she walks among forgotten moons. Others say she sleeps inside a child, yet unborn, waiting for the next darkness. But the daughters remember. They whisper her name before battle, not as a prayer, as a promise. She was made by pain, forged by fire, sharpened by love, betrayal, and the long road beyond revenge. She was the one who turned seduction into revolution, who turned violence into purpose, who reminded the stars that monsters may rise, but there will always be one who rises higher.